In a meticulously planned assassination attempt, the terrorists raised their missile launcher, locking onto the US president's private jet. They then pulled out their latest surface-to-air missile, took aim, and fired the missile directly at the plane. The captain, realizing the imminent danger, immediately requested support from headquarters. At that moment, the plane's system suddenly crashed. The captain, in order to ensure the president's safe evacuation, made a quick decision to have the president enter the escape pod and jettison him from the plane. The bodyguards also parachuted out to protect the president, but their parachutes failed to open. At this point, the bodyguards looked to their leader, Jack, who unhesitatingly shot and killed him. It turned out that Jack had long been in cahoots with the terrorists. He quickly put on his parachute and jumped out of the plane. Meanwhile, the Pentagon received news of Air Force One's distress and discovered that the president's escape pod had lost contact. The Secretary of Defense immediately established an emergency command center and dispatched SEAL Team 6 to conduct a search and rescue mission. At this time, the president was trapped in the escape pod and was discovered by a boy hunting in the jungle. The boy cautiously approached the escape pod with his bow and arrow, and out of curiosity, gently tapped on the pod door. The president, mistaking him for one of his bodyguards, wrote the unlocking code on the pod door's window. The boy carefully entered the code and quickly stepped back. As the pod door opened, the president was surprised to find that his rescuer was a young boy. Upon learning that the man was the US president, the boy immediately decided to help the president escape. However, when Jack arrived with the terrorists, the president was nowhere to be found. The boy who had rescued the president was actually a hunter from a local tribe. In this tribe, there was a rule that when a boy turned 13, he had to enter the jungle alone, hunt and kill a wild beast to prove his courage and strength. Little did anyone expect that this boy would end up saving the US president. The next day, as the boy was helping the president evacuate, Jack and the terrorists were catching up from the bottom of the mountain. The president, knowing there was no escape, decided to have the boy leave first. However, Jack had already caught up and successfully abducted the president, calling in a helicopter to transport the president away in a freezer. At this point, the boy made up his mind to rescue the president and prove his strength. He quickly climbed to the top of the mountain, and at the right moment, leaped off the cliff.